planty peeps, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for coming back. If you've watched my channel before, and thank you for watching. If it's your first time here, welcome. I am going to do a planty talk and some planty chores today. So one thing I would like to do is to try to put one of my plants up on the trellis. I've had a few questions about how I trellis my plants, and many of you know that I use the Dollar Tree reforms, very simple way of trellising. Also, there is another plant that is in need of some plant care, so stay tuned, and I'll show you some of the things I'm doing to my plants today. All right, so this is my Hoya species Affinity caudata, and it is a long trailing plant. When I got it, it was very small. I did get this from a plant grower down in Florida called for Suck's Sake. I highly recommend their plants. Anyway, I would like to work on getting this plant up on the trellis. You can see this plant is in I would say about a 4-inch pot, clear pot. And I do not want to put this into a bigger pot right now because I don't think it really needs it. But I am going to set it in another clear pot that I have that has a little bit more structure to it, because I feel like when I put it on the trellis that it's going to need a kind of a more sturdy pot for it to go in. This pot is basically a soft plastic pot that is not meant to stand on its own the way I have it going. So I'm going to try to pop this out and just set it directly down into this pot. And if I need to put a little bit more soil around it, like it's a little bit bigger than this one, then I'll add some soil to it. So here we go. The roots appear healthy on this plant. Hoya roots are very thin, and you know, sometimes when people are first getting into Hoya, they think, oh my gosh, my Hoyas are not growing, and they are growing, but they are growing roots first. And a lot of plants will do that. They need to be established. The root system needs to be established, and then it will begin showing you some growth with foliage and also with blooms. So that fit in there perfectly. I think I will tuck a little bit. I can put my finger down in there on the side here, and I'm going to just add a little bit more soil to this pot. And I have a little bit of soil in this container here. So I don't really need very much. I'm actually in need of some more orchid bark to add to my mix. And I bought some potting soil, just some off-brand potting soil that I can add to my mix, but I forgot that I need to get some orchid bark. So I'll probably get some more of that when I go out in my travels this weekend, so I can make a big batch of soil to have on hand. I usually just keep some in a tub out on my deck. All right, so this was just, it fit in here perfectly. And I'm not going to try to overflow it. I think that's enough. And so now I have two sizes of trellises that I like to try to use. This smaller size, and I also use a larger size. And I first grabbed the larger size for this plant, but then I thought, well, with this size pot, I don't know that I really want to use the large one right now. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and put it on this small trellis to start with. So what I normally do is I use bamboo sticks, and these are They come in really long, like 6-foot lengths, and they're used to stake things up in your garden. And I usually just use my heavyweight pruners to cut these, and then I can stick them in between the rungs of the wreath form like this, and you just kind of thread them in there so that you can feel that it's sturdy, and then you push this part down in the pot, in the soil. So I'm gonna just, let's see, you can see that, and I use 2 of these usually. Just stick it down in there, and I try to use bamboo that's about the same length. I try to cut them around the same length, but it doesn't have to be anything fancy. At least for me, I don't think so. And yes, sometimes the bamboo does end up, eventually it will deteriorate, but it takes a while. It's not like it immediately deteriorates. Bamboo is really good for this kind of thing. All right, so I have that in there, and they are about the same length. And now what I do is carefully thread the plant onto the trellis. Okay, I do have some new growth on this plant that I'm going to try to be careful not to knock off. And it is kind of tangled, so it might take me a little bit to get these vines untangled. So I think I've had this plant a couple of years now, maybe 2 years. And this is one that I've never put outside or anything like that. As you can see, this is wound around, so I'm trying to carefully unwind this so that I can have separate vines to put up on the trellis. I try to also equal out the plant, like thread an equal amount on both sides. But if I'm not able to do that, then I don't worry about it too much. I feel like the plant will equal out, and things in nature are not always equal, as we know. So everybody, you can see Olive wants to be a star in the video. She's being my little garden helper again. So usually she doesn't do too much to the plants. Sometimes she just sniffs them. I think sometimes she likes the smell of different ones. So I'm just gonna get a couple of pieces of this wire to be ready, so when I get ready to put it up on the trellis, it will be cut. And what I do is just simply take the vines and drape them across. Let's see if I can find a separate one. Okay, so here's one. This actually is 2, but that's okay as long as they are cooperative. I should be able to do it. So the bamboo posts are helping this plant to stay up, and sometimes it helps you to not even have to use very much of the wire. And remember, when you're putting them up on the trellis, that you do not want to put the wire on really tight. Some people have the butterfly clips that they use when they trellis, and I don't own any of those. So I just use what I have, which is this wire, and it has worked for me for years. If you should happen to snap off any of the vines by accident, then you can put them in water and propagate them. So what I do sometimes is just kind of thread the leaves through the trellis like that, and you can see it's staying up by itself. I wouldn't concern myself with the leaves facing all one direction, because once you put it back in the light, the leaves are going to turn toward the light, and then you can turn the entire plant when you need to. So you can kind of just tuck the leaves in. Doing this also helps you to see if there are any dead parts that need to be trimmed off of your plant. So helps you have time to inspect. All right, so kind of drape this one up, but I want to secure it with a piece of the wire. What are you doing, Olive? She's a very busy doggy. She's only a year old. And our other dog, Jake, he's not as active anymore right now because he's older. He's going on 12 years old. But Olive makes up the difference when it comes to that. All right, so with this kind of trellis, sometimes I leave a little bit of bushiness toward the bottom. I did this with my latifolia albo marginata, so there's a lot of bushy plant down at the bottom there. What are you doing, Olive? You trying to help me trellis? Okay. Now, this long piece. Now, one thing that you might need to be aware of also with Hoya, and you probably found this out. I know I found out just through experimentation, and then I heard someone say this. Sometimes when you have a new vine that is growing and you are trying to trellis that, if you allow that vine to just hang downward, it will sometimes stop growing, and then it will send new growth out in another spot. So that's something to be aware of, that the vines like to be pointing upward when like the end of this likes to be going upward, so that it will continue to grow from this growth point. Because sometimes with Hoya, if they're going down, they will shut that growth off in that spot and then send a message to the plant to send a growth point out somewhere else. So sometimes it just can't be avoided. You know, I'm not a stickler on my plants being extra neat and perfect on the trellis, So if I have to leave a piece sticking up in the air or not trellised until it's grown enough to be trellised, then that's what I'll do, because really the whole point of it is so that you can have a healthy growing plant that's not all over the place. But sometimes you have to let the plant do what it wants to do in order for it to continue that growth. So I'm turning the plant a little bit this way so I can see what I'm doing better, and I'll see here. So these the vines on this plant are they feel very thin and kind of almost wiry, and it's a very interesting Hoya. It's different from any other that I have. I feel like it's a tough plant, but of course the new growth is tender when it first comes out, and it's easy to knock those new leaves off. So you have to be careful. So you just kind of take your time and thread your wire through and attach your vines to the trellis. And then if your wire is too long, you can trim off or either bend the extra down so that it's not as visible. All right, so I am going to finish doing this off camera and then show you the end result of that. I think you probably have the idea, and I don't need to keep on going. And I'll be back with the next part of this plant care video. Okay, so here is the result of me trellising this plant. This is a Hoya species affinity caudata, and I just put it on a Dollar Tree wreath form using bamboo stakes, and it actually makes it look like it's a much bigger plant to me. I didn't think it was going to be this full, but I'm pleased with how it came out. And you can see there's a few pieces kind of sticking off of it. I'm not bothered by that. And some of the pieces are just woven into the wreath form. And so this is my go-to way of trellising my Hoya. It helps to keep them more compact while they are still continuing to grow and show their beauty. All right, so the next project that I want to do is to work with this. I have this cactus, and it was sold to me as a golden rat tail cactus. Let me adjust the camera so you can see it. All right, so this is it. And when I purchased this plant, I bought 2 long stems and then 1 main trunk that now you can see it has some new growth on it, but it probably needs more light for these new growth parts to fill out. And you can see on this long one, it has a new growth point there that grew in my care, but it also has, or used to have, another long one in it, which is this one that I cut off already. And I just cut this off this morning because I cut the end off of it the other day because I noticed it was not the right color. And then when I looked at it today, I saw, well, this is rotting and it's affecting the babies. The babies are not going to be able to survive. So I would like to use my shears and cut off these babies and just allow them to callus over for a few days, and then stick them back in the pot with the mother plant, and hopefully they will be able to survive. And I am holding this with a set of tongs, because while this plant, you can touch it, you can rub it really lightly, but if you press down on it, the little hairs do stick in your hands, and I don't have time for that. So, all right, so what I'm gonna do right now is just cut off the babies, and I think that the smallest ones that were closer to the end of the plant might not be viable anymore, but I might be able to save these bigger ones. Let's see if I can zoom in some. No. All right, so I'm gonna try to just cut below. Well, first let me just cut off. You can tell that part is just rotten, and I don't know, I guess I must have overwatered once, and the plant just did not appreciate that. So at least I'll be able to save these two babies. And I'll just, you can see right here, this part I'm holding is rotten, and then these parts here still look healthy. So I'll try to cut off that rot so that it doesn't affect the babies. And hopefully they will survive. All right, so I just remove them from the rotted portion. And what I will do is let this part just sit on a paper towel for a few days. And I may even sprinkle a little cinnamon on the cut part to help it not rot. And maybe these will be viable little baby golden rat-tail cacti. And hopefully this other piece, this long piece here, will be okay. I don't know, it seems kind of weird also in the pot. It's kind of like moving around a lot more than normal in the pot. So I'm hoping that it's not rotted, because let me try moving this one. So this one is very sturdy, and this one seems like it is very suspicious. I don't want to uproot it right now though to see what's going on with it. I'll just, you know, if it rots, then I will just remove it and take this baby off of it also. But for right now, I'll just let it stay. And if this piece is rotting, then what I will do is I will place all of this in a smaller pot, because that could be the issue, that this pot is too big and too deep for this plant to be able to survive, because you know these type of plants don't have a huge root structure. So I'll keep you posted on how this does, because I definitely don't want the rot to spread over to this other part of the plant. So I don't know, the more I think about it, the more I really want to just remove this piece now. But I guess I'll just wait and see. So this is my Anthurium red crystallinum, and this is the plant where I decided to put moss around the growth points of the plant, because it had a stunted leaf, And I wanted to do an experiment to see what would happen, whether it would help this plant to grow, whether it would help the stunted leaf to go ahead and continue to form and so forth. Well, the stunted leaf fell off. And I did not cut it off. I did ask the advice of an Ethereum grower, Barry, that I know from Facebook, and he said no, just leave it on there. So I decided to put moss around the growth points to try to see if it would help this plant. And as soon as I did that, like a week later, this new leaf popped out. And this leaf, you know, knock on wood, it is growing properly and so forth. So what I'm going to do now is adjust the camera, and then I'm going to take the plastic off of this plant to see if there are any new roots that formed also, because to me that was just amazing in that short period of time that this plant put out a new leaf, because this is has been a slow grower for me. So I just used moss, and I used a plastic bag that I cut up because I didn't have any saran wrap. And I also used this floral wire to secure the plastic, to secure the plastic and moss on here. So, let's see. I just kind of made sure, I would stick my finger down in here to make sure that the moss was staying moist. And so I'm gonna see if we have any new roots or growth points or whatever. Oh my goodness. So already I can see, I'm gonna turn this around so you can see. And kind of adjust this. So when I unwrap this, look what we have here. This is a brand new root that has popped out from one of the growth points of this plant. And I'm going to just carefully move the moss back to see what is going on, if there's any more. That's so exciting. There's a random piece of wire down in there. So I'm going to just peel it back and see what's going on the other side. It looks like there's a little root there, but that's amazing that that moisture near these growth points is helping this plant. So I'm hoping that with continued application of this moss, that it will continue to help this plant to do well. It just proves that that method does work. And some people call it air layering, where you put moss or another growing medium up at the nodes. And so this would be a way that you could, if I wanted to propagate this plant, I could cut it off once it got plenty of roots there, and then I would still have my mother plant. But yeah, it seems like it's working. I'm really happy to be able to see that it has that new root there. So I'm going to put this moss back on here and let it continue growing. It has a new inflorescence here also, which I'm not trying to grow any berries or whatever, but it's just interesting to see. All right, so that's that update. It's very exciting. Thanks again for watching my channel. I hope that you enjoyed seeing me do a few plant chores, and I hope that you were able to learn something or get some ideas from this, or just have something relaxing to watch. Let me know in the comments what you think, and what you are working on, which projects you're working on. It's a rainy Saturday here, so I may do a few more plant chores. Just let me know what kinds of videos you would like to see, or which ones you like the most. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, and also thanks for sharing. Have a great weekend.